Welcome into Turnkey on Queen City News Plus, your go-to show for everything real estate. We talk about the latest market trends, do's and don'ts of the industry, and provide expert advice on navigating this dynamic landscape that we call home. This week we're talking golf. A lot of people know this guy right here, Jon Rahm, professional golfer. He's won the Masters. He's won, I think, more than one major. Pretty accomplished. But what about that guy walking up to him? Adam Hayes has made the headlines recently, along with his real estate agent, Ben Bowen, with Premier Sotheby's International Realty. Ben, thank you so much for coming on Turnkey.
Morgan, thank you for having me. My pleasure.
So, Adam is a new client of yours. Is he new, or did you know him before?
So I knew Adam's wife, Brandy, before.
Okay.
But they are new clients. We just listed their home for sale last week.
So it's making headlines. Everyone is talking about the Caddie, who's been on the bag for Jon Rahm for forever, it seems.
About a decade.
Listing his home, Iron Station, North Carolina, for roughly $14 million.
Correct.
That's a pretty price tag. I will say a lot of the comments that I've received have been, wow, a Caddie has a $14 million home is pretty impressive.
Well, they've done well for themselves, and there's a backstory to how they got there.
Mm-hmm.
Happy to share some of that with you.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah.
So when Adam began caddying, he was struggling and not making a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
His wife, Brandy, had a very successful real estate business. And so I think Brandy kind of carried them through the early years. And as Adam's career grew and he became more accomplished, he got on Jon Rahm's bag about 10 years ago. And Rahm was at one point the #1 caddy in the world. So when she was a realtor, she has a very keen sense of design and taste and style. And they have bought and flipped a couple of homes on Lake Norman that
Okay.
they lived in, fixed up, sold. So they made some very wise real estate investments, and they built some wealth through real estate on Lake Norman. And after a while, it got to be just kind of a busy lifestyle on the lake. And when Adam was home from traveling, I think he wanted some space and serenity. And so they decided to acquire this property they put together. And then they worked with one of the top architectural firms in Charlotte and a great custom home builder and built this property that they call Stone Falls Farm. So it's evolved process through the years of a joint partnership between the two of them.
Well, it's a beautiful home. It's a beautiful area. Correct me if I'm wrong, but 136 acres, something like that?
So correct. They are selling the home on 100 acres and they're going to retain the other 36 for themselves for a
Mhm.
potential smaller home there.
Okay. I thought maybe when you listed it that a lot of times with these bigger properties that are more expansive, you'll see that the home is listed with acreage and then the acreage is listed separately, and then the buyer has the opportunity to purchase the acreage as well. I guess it's just more marketable that way. I thought maybe that was the reasoning for that, but it sounds like it's different in this circumstance.
Yeah, in this circumstance, they would like to keep the property next door to it. If the right buyer comes along and the numbers match up, they would be willing to consider selling it. But at this time, they're planning on keeping the 36 acres for the opportunity to have a smaller home.
So y- you you always seem to have the listings that everyone's talking about. A tip of the hat to just
Thank you.
you're talented, and people want to work with you. And I think we've talked about this before because I've had you on Turnkey for another property, and you're just yourself. Is that the magic to getting these listings? Is people know what they're getting with you and they know the personality and the person?
I hope so, Morgan. I had somebody tell me recently that I was the same person in person I was on my videos, and I certainly hope that I am. I don't
Mhm.
try to come across somebody that I'm not, but the only way I know how to be is myself, and
Mhm.
so that seems to work. But yeah, I love what I do. And the prior person I was on here for today is his birthday.
Wait,
So
whose birthday is it?
Shaq's.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, because
So
one of the other properties that
yeah,
okay, it's
yeah,
Shaq's birthday
yeah.
today
So
while
happy
we're
birthday,
recording
Shaq, if
this
you're
this
watching.
episode. So
Yeah.
happy birthday to Shaq Thompson. Um, so obviously personality is just one part of listing a property like this. It is so involved. I'm gonna run a clip of yours
Okay.
that I pulled from some of your listing videos, and I would love to just kind of talk about what goes into that whole part of listing a
Sure,
property. So
sure.
why don't we play that and then we'll kind of break it down.
Yeah. So your home and gardens have been featured not one, not two, but three magazines. Tell me what makes this place so special.
I really enjoy gardening, and all of my animals.
What kind of animals we have?
We have alpacas, chickens, and guardian livestock dogs that are great Pyrenees.
I think what I find so interesting, Ben, about this video in particular is very rarely, if not ever, do you see the seller in the videos. Um, especially at this price point, right? A lot of times they don't even want anyone to know their name.
Sure.
So, what was that conversation like? Did you have this idea that you wanted to put Brandy in the video? What,
Yeah.
how did that come to be?
So a big part of what makes the property special are the gardens. That's
Mhm.
Brandy's passion. That's her hobby. That's her love. And I told Brandy I could never tell that story as well as she could, and asked if she'd be open to me just talking with her for a few minutes about the gardens and what makes it so special. And she's very personable. Brandy knows a lot of people in the area. She's a real estate agent herself. Brandy has a website or a Instagram page for Stone Falls Farm, the property.
Mhm.
She has brought children out there, people out there. They have alpacas and they've had sheep out there.
And you
And
got to use the gym equipment, I
yeah,
see.
use the gym equipment.
I
Yeah.
noticed that you put the what do you call it when you select the weight? I noticed you put it all the way at the
Heavy and
bottom,
setting. Yeah.
but then you lifted it with such ease.
I've been working out regularly.
Okay. That's a bit, you always put something kind of fun in your
Yeah,
videos too.
you can't take yourself too seriously.
Mhm.
Morgan, I mean, we're selling dirt, we're selling land, and it's improvement.
Mhm.
But I love what I do, but I thought it would be great to have Brandy in there. She's
Mhm.
very personable and she could explain the gardenings and how all that stuff works. And the way they built the gardens is you can really spend a lot of time doing that, or it can be pretty self-maintaining if you want
Mhm.
it to. So if somebody's not a huge gardener, they could buy it and still maintain all the gardens without a ton of work.
Mhm. So, question
Yep,
then, Brandy's got a background in real
she
estate.
does.
Um, why wouldn't she think, "Okay, I'm gonna sell this myself"?
So, Brandy sold her last couple homes herself, I believe, but
Mhm.
they knew this needed somebody with a bigger global reach, more experience marketing these types of homes.
Mhm.
When you get into a certain price point, Morgan, it's a whole nother level of marketing and expertise that you need to have.
Mhm.
And Brandy and Adam recognized that, and they knew to stay in their lane of what they knew and did best, and hire somebody to do this for them.
And that's a huge thing when you're looking at, working with clients. A lot of times they have their own idea of how something's gonna go, but it's maybe not the best
Yeah.
approach, and the fact that they recognize that, I mean, Premier Sotheby's has that international reach, right? I think that's one of the main real estate companies that people think of when they think of luxury listings. When you list a property like this, what goes into it time-wise, monetarily? How do you plan out the marketing strategy for something like that?
So enough money to scare me if it doesn't sell. Time wise, it's tons of hours. I mean,
Mhm,
it's tons of hours. It's about creating a marketing plan and platform and who we think the buyer is. One person that I'm very fortunate to have on my team is Elise Raymer. She is the public relations director for Premier Sotheby's International Realty. She was named one of the top 50 women in PR in America, not just real estate, but in America, and she's phenomenal. But the power that she brings to the table is she has contacts at the Wall Street Journal and all kinds of places. So we spoke with a writer from the Wall Street Journal, and she interviewed Adam Hayes for the article.
mhm,
It was published Saturday in the Wall Street Journal. And when you get a real estate listing picked up there, it's picked up all over the place. It's been in all kind of golf magazines, Golf Week. I've been in contact with the New York Post this week and tons of publications that are wanting to ask and write about the story. So our PR apartment gives us the ability to have a reach way broader than I could ever have.
Hmm. And I know as the real estate agent, you want it to be all about the real estate, but there is that one part about the golf that makes the headlines, and that's what does it,
Mm,
right?
it does. So we had a lot of discussions with Adam and Brandy about that.
Mhm,
They are very private and they would prefer to have stayed private,
mhm,
but his relationship with John Rahm was going to create exposure for them. And the reality is in real estate, if you list a home this expensive, the media is going to look at the listing, do some research, see who owns the house. They're going to look up the owner and they can tie that person to anything that's public
the
knowledge,
LLC.
LLC,
Yeah,
anything that's of interest to the public, they're going to run and create a story. So what we decided together as a team was to let's cut off the narrative and create the story, or at least be a part of it. Because if you don't do that, then the media creates whatever story they want to create.
mhm,
So Adam was at least able to share his side of the story uh,
mhm.
with the Wall Street Journal.
That's nice, and I know I get both sides of it. I
Yeah,
understand, them wanting to have their privacy. This
yeah,
is their house, and now everybody is looking at every
yeah,
single
yeah,
picture,
yeah, yeah,
and probably noticing the master's bag that's hanging at the front
yeah,
entrance
yeah.
when you walk in. But there is that marketability aspect of it when you let people in a little bit, and it's a beautiful house. I would love to hear more about it. We talked about the gardens a little bit, but this is an expansive property. I mean, the gym, of course, you gotta have the golf
Yeah,
simulator,
yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
How many shots did it take you?
So that they didn't air, they didn't show my best shot. It's like they showed me a shot where I
I
didn't even hit the
noticed it
green.
trailed
It's
off
like,
a little
I
bit, and
know.
I thought that too. I thought, "Wow, I thought Ben would have picked
Uh,
one that was a little straighter."
So yeah, I should have done a few more. But so I think there's a trend more.
Humanizing.
We we used to have like a man cave where the guys got this room for
This is like a
watching
man
ball
man
games.
house. It's more than a
Yeah,
man
so
cave.
it's becoming into the whole barn dominiums are
Mhm,
super popular and stuff. And this is basically a barn dominium. One half of it is an active working barn. There are two animal stalls.
mhm,
There are places for tractors and all the lawn equipment, gardening, farming
mhm,
equipment that you'd want to have. And the other side of that's a 3,000 square foot recreational area
mhm.
with a full fitness center. Their boys play baseball, so there's a regulation baseball batting
I
cage
figured there
there.
had to have been some sort of tie because that's
Yeah,
not something that someone just puts in. Baseball,
yeah.
golf, yes, but a batting cage area, that's not something that you're just gonna
Throw
install.
in.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I think if the buyer doesn't play baseball, have any draw there, that would make a phenomenal big putting green if
Mm,
they're a golfer.
right.
Then of course the golf simulator, there's a bar there, there's a table there. You can sit there and hang out and watch your friends play. So with the simulator, you can
Mhm,
practice or you can play Pebble Beach and other famous courses there. But I think their kids have a great time with their friends over hanging out, just
mhm.
playing courses and Adam can practice there as well. So
Yeah, I mean, how can you not have a great
yeah.
time as a kid with
Yeah.
all of those toys at
Yeah.
your at the disposal? The property itself, I mean, 100 plus acres. There's, plenty of room for whatever you wanna do. Um, Tell me about I saw that you were on, four-wheelers
Well,
at
yeah,
one
yeah.
point.
So the first cool thing about the property is I've seen homes on a lot of land that sit near the street. They don't have a ton of privacy. See
Mhm,
them from the road. Their driveway is about 3/10 of a mile long. So you meander through the trees and woods to get to the house, and it just once you get there and see it, it's beautiful. So there's total privacy around the house. They have trails in the woods for hiking, for four-wheelers. You can ride horses on the property. You could shoot skeet on the property. There's all kind of outdoor usage for the property. They built a large fire pit out beside the barn, and they can have 20 people there, 30 people there hanging out at the fire pit in the evenings, just cooking out and hanging out. And I think they have invited a lot of their family and friends there to use the property.
mhm,
Um, but the land gives you so many opportunities, and for them, the animals are a big part of it. They have alpacas there,
mhm.
which are super cool. I've learned a little bit. The Great Pyrenees are guard dogs, so they guard against coyotes and foxes.
Okay,
So they
interesting.
protect the chicken and the sheep. And One of the really cool features that just shows you the detail of the home is in the backyard, there's a pool, but in the backyard, there's a chicken house, and the chicken house is split by the fenced-in backyard.
Hmm.
So the chickens can come in from the barn side of the chicken house, lay eggs. They can walk in from their backyard in the chicken house and gather the.
Oh,
So
interesting.
it's pretty
Okay.
cool. They just thought out everything.
A lot of detail, obviously, with this home. Um, who was the builder?
Corbin Holmes was the builder, and Smith Slovic was the architect.
Okay. So you mentioned that it takes a lot of time. When did they approach you to list this property, and how long did it take you to get it to? I mean, it's only been on the market for a few days now. But how long did it take you to get to finally hitting submit on MLS?
So I started talking to them about 6 months ago. So this has been a discussion for a while, and decided to do it in the springtime. So as far as actually getting the house photographed, getting the videos edited, that's been probably a 3 or 4 week process. When I met with them, they needed almost no staging advice. Their house is beautiful, but a lot of times you have to meet with the seller and help them show them how to make it show better. But their home looked great. But so it took about 3 to 4 weeks to get one.
What am I reading? What am I reading about? There's an accent wall sourced from the Biltmore estate.
So they've got a wall of some wood reclaimed beams that are 200 years old. That's from a Virginia barn. That's in the area between the family room and the kitchen.
Hmm.
It's probably 4 feet wide. It's a big, wide opening.
That's
Not sure if that's what you're referencing, but
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Accent wall, yeah, sourced from the Biltmore estate.
Mhm.
It sounds like, um, there's a lot of detail, and I think a lot of times when people are looking through the pictures online, which is, of course, why you do the videos as well, but
Right.
it's you don't get all of those details unless you read the description. How many people are a part of your team? You mentioned that you've got top PR gal in the country, essentially. How many people work to get this listing to market?
So I have specifically two assistants that work. But part of my team includes my photographer and videographer, my home measuring people, staging people. And then I'll lean into our brand for help and guidance on marketing, creative, here for the getting exposure through the PR part. So I kind of count all those people for my.
Just enough time and money, I think you said, to feel uncomfortable if
Yeah,
it doesn't
yes,
sell. I think that's the part that a lot of people miss. They're like,
yeah,
they get their calculator out and they're like, how much could this person make on a
yeah,
sale like this? Which, it's profitable if it works out, but if it doesn't, then you're in the red quite a bit.
yeah. That's fine. And now I'm at a point where I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But there's a point early on in your career where you kind of are sweating bullets if it doesn't sell.
Yeah.
But it's I think too often agents skimp out on
Hmm.
all the marketing it takes to sell a house. But if you really do everything right for a client and you're successful selling their house, it's going to give you more opportunities. You said I seem to land on a lot of these homes like this, and that's true. But
I know it's
it's
not by luck.
it's because I've had success selling other homes like this that I get in front of the next. And I think part of the success is I'm not afraid to spend whatever it takes to do everything right. We did videos in this house of the gardens, of the trails, of the animals, recreation area in the barn, in addition to that.
How many days of shooting? Was it one full day of shooting, or did you come
They,
back multiple days?
well, we shot this in two different sets.
Okay. Because obviously you have the sunset pictures as well. That's not like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can do all of that at
And
once.
those are the money shots. That's what you put on the cover picture. That's what gets fed out to all the Zillows and realtors and all the news sources is the cover shot from MLS a lot of times. That's what somebody's got to click that. And
Let's talk about that because, a lot of times you'll see listings, and it doesn't have to be a luxury listing like this, but you'll see listings and it's, you know, someone's living room furniture. How important is that first picture?
So I'm very specific with how I showcase the house.
Hmm.
If there's a pool, for example, I'll probably showcase that in the first couple pictures just to show there is a pool in the house. But then I like to circle back to the front of the house and walk a buyer through the house,
Hmm.
then end up at the outdoors. But we strategically place all the pictures where we best. And if it doesn't sell in a few weeks, we'll mix those up.
Okay. So then whoever is getting that into their inbox, all of a sudden it's a fresh look at a home and maybe
They don't
this time they
recognize it.
click on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a new house.
Yeah.
Maybe they like the aerial of their front shot.
I know you've had a lot of like fan interest in
Yeah,
this
yeah,
home,
yeah.
but have you had initial buyer interest? Have you had any showings yet? I know it's early.
We have been on the market for, what, about 5 days. We've got 2 people that have expressed interest in it so far and seen the house. So, looking forward to getting them out there and seeing it. It's not gonna be a buyer that runs out there and sees it the first day and purchases it,
Right.
but, I think we've got some local buyers that would have an interest. Lake Norman has exploded. The home values have gone up tremendously, and I think you've got some buyers who have lived on the lake for 10, 20 years, and they've kind of been there, done that.
Hmm.
Maybe they want more privacy and,
Well, you pay for the shoreline.
enjoy pay for the shoreline, and maybe they've done that, and they wanna have a little bit of privacy and space. So I think there's an opportunity for a local buyer to buy it. But there's also, people moving to the Carolinas for the mountain areas and stuff. They want land, they want property. Uh, this could be a second home for somebody from South Florida that wants to get up here in the summertime. I don't know.
And I know most of our viewers who watch Turnkey are probably like, "Did he just say second home?"
So this is
But
probably
it's true.
it's probably the primary home for.
Yeah.
But this buyer likely has other homes somewhere else.
Right.
But we are seeing people from South Florida specifically with tremendous wealth. And in South Florida, in Naples, $14 million is it's
Right.
sold all day long.
Right.
So
What do you think? What's with the South Florida connection? What do you think it is?
so our company is based out of Naples, and every time I'm in South Florida there, they're always like, "Oh, you're from North Carolina. We love it there." All right, really? I'm kind of thinking the palm trees and the white sand.
Sounds
Says
nice.
that's a pretty
The
nice,
hurricane
yeah.
insurance.
But they want out of there in the summer. A lot of the people,
Hot.
it's hot. The insurance is extremely expensive down there, especially if your property has been flooded and if
Hmm.
you've had a pool where a storm's brought water in from your pool into your house. I mean, I have a friend of mine had a $4 million home there, and his clients were carrying 100 grand a year for insurance on the property,
Hmm.
and so it's gotten expensive. And some of the South Florida people want to get out of there,
Hmm.
and others just want a place to leave in the summertime.
Hmm.
A place to go to in the.
Yeah, I used to live in Fort Myers
Okay.
for 3.5
Yeah.
years, and those summers they do get pretty hot.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
humid,
Yeah.
It's right on the Gulf there.
Yeah. It's just hot when you wake up in the morning.
Yeah, it is. It was hot after we had I covered a hurricane there, and it was Hurricane Irma, I believe, and being post hurricane without that AC,
Oh,
that is a whole different level of hot.
yeah.
So, when you've got interested buyers, because I know there are a lot more who probably contacted you than the legit ones.
Sure, sure.
How do you vet these people? Because I'm sure there are people who say, "Yeah, here are my proof of funds. Um, I'm
So,
good for it."
yeah.
How do you do the deep dive?
So we verify the proof of best we can. If it's a letter from a financial advisor, we may call the advisor and say, "Hey, did you write this letter for these people
Mhm.
on this date? Got these assets."
Mhm.
But we need more than just something. Say, "Hey, got this much money." There are times when a known person wants to see it. If it's a known person that we know is in the NASCAR community or somebody like that.
Someone you actually know,
Yeah,
right?
we may say, "Hey, don't worry about that." But for everybody else, we need a proof of funds. I'm present for showings,
Mhm.
and so, the buyer's agent has no real knowledge of the house or the property, and it's part of what Adam and Brandy are hiring me for is to show and sell the property.
Mhm.
So when I'm there, I can point out all the features of the property, how they could use the property, talk to it about it being a one-of-one property, and we're trying to sell the property.
Mhm.
And, our competition for a house like this is beyond Lake Norman. There's Lake Kiwi in South Carolina. It could be that.
Mhm.
It could be they're looking at buying a home at the coast, it could be in the mountain. So, the competition for it goes beyond just Lake Norman.
How involved then, since you're the one who has all the knowledge on the property, how involved is the buyer's agent then? Because, I mean, I'm sure they read up on it, but you're kind of the
Yeah,
expert.
yeah, and I think they appreciate that. I go to the house to meet them,
Mhm.
and I tell the buyer's agent they don't have to know everything about the house. Share everything with their clients, and of course they are there with the buyers, but I don't expect them to know all the details of.
Any final, mentions of this property that you wanted to say? Anything that I missed?
I think the unique thing is location wise. You're about 20 minutes from Lake Norman, 30
Right.
minutes from Uptown Charlotte.
Iron Station, right?
Yep, Iron Station. There is a private airport about 5 minutes away, which
Okay.
could be useful for buyer. And I've joked with the sellers, they're only 5 minutes to Chick-fil-A. So it's not that far out.
That's more important than the Carolinas than people think.
Yeah, it is. So if you've got kids, you're not far from Chick-fil-A here, but it's pretty close, Morgan, to conveniences for
Mhm.
shopping and restaurants.
All right.
Yeah, you have your own private seclusion and total privacy and escape.
I think you may have just sold it with the Chick-fil-A
Yeah,
comment.
hope so.
Ben, thank you so much for coming back on
Welcome, Morgan.
Turnkey and
Thanks so much.
for choosing to come on our show for this property. You're always welcome to.
Yeah, you're awesome. I appreciate it. I hope I have another opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you to everyone else out there for watching this episode of Turnkey on Queen City News Plus. We'll see you next time.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.